Go. All right. Welcome to Security Guy Radio, securityguy.radio.com and securityguy.tv.com. Yep. We're at Infuse 2017, beautiful Las Vegas, guidance software, Encase. I got all the names in. Welcome. What's your name?
My name is Paul Shomo. I can tell you a little about myself. I've been with guidance software forever, over 10 years. I actually am a former veteran of research and development. I actually started out when we released our first security product, our first incident response product. I was recruited in this kind of new product research group. We launched it, and it later on became Encase Endpoint Security, which was just named by Gartner as a market share leader in detection and response.
Excellent.
And then I also I come out and talk to people like yourself sometimes in the media, and I do a little writing too.
You come out. They let you out of the basement.
They let me out of the dungeon. I do a little writing too. I am a contributor for Dark Reading, and I publish E-Week and Security Week. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Now, you said something interesting about how the response part of it. I'm not sure I understand that, all right? So I was a cop, I was an investigator, I did digital forensics with the Microsoft Disk Editor, and I'm no genius, but I get how it works, and I think it's brilliant. I never considered it, I considered responding because I had an investigation, I had to respond to it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about live incident response, more or less?
Well, I'm really talking about, security alerts that your security operations center, your SOC, receive that may indicate that you have an ongoing breach, that you may have a targeted attack, you may have professional bad actors, hackers that have owned your endpoints and are moving around laterally and trying to steal your sensitive data, or maybe encrypt it so they can ransom it off. And so typically there's a lot of security alerts that our customers experience, many thousands or tens of thousands, and they ought to chase them down to see which ones are the important ones so you don't end up in the news. And so we have a product that ingests those and automates responding to them and allows a human to detect advanced malware and detect ongoing breaches.
Now, I did Black Hat last year. I did 50 interviews.
Yep.
And I asked everybody the same question. Define real time. And one guy said real time is 7 months for that application. And that's great because it takes that long. And another guy says, real time is like right now. It's defined differently in every sector.
So we're interesting because we focus on incident response. So we're letting other people fire off alerts once in a while, and we're helping the SOC personnel, the incident responders, determine if they're important. So we're actually responding after the fact. And the interesting thing about forensics is there's pretty much forensic residue left behind whenever a user or a application does almost anything when it interacts with the operating system. So we can always come in after the fact and piece together, what was running, did they drop some malicious files, have they deleted files, these type of things. Are there processes running that are exhibiting bad behavior or anomalous behavior, bring in a variety of detection methods, as well as investigate, for instance, lateral movement and maybe user accounts are externally controlled and people are moving towards your sensitive data. So for us, we don't worry about real time. We worry about responding and piecing together the forensic residue so that we can determine, if this is a breach and cut off the attackers.
So if SOC gives you an alert and it's close to real time because of the connectivity now, you can respond in close to real time as that incident occurs. I remember back in the day, we had a little EO box. We put hard drive A in one box and hard drive B in the box, and we put them together, and we cloned them first, then we had to search this. And it took a long time. It literally took a long time. Get me up to date on the speed in which we can do forensics investigations now. I mean, it's all kind of, you're making a copy of that hard drive on the web now. It's kind of no need to do the physical thing we used to do, right?
Yeah, so the old days of law enforcement having to take an entire disk image have gone away. I mean, if you're a corporation, you have our agent on your endpoint. So you can just go out to the agent, and you're still going underneath the operating system, underneath the file system, and you're in a forensically sound manner acquiring artifacts on the disk and volatile artifacts as well. It's just that you don't need to send back everything. You can let our agent pull the important bits of metadata and evidence that you need.
Right.
Whereas if you're law enforcement, your suspect is not a customer of guidance software. They don't have an agent on the endpoint, so you're going to have to take the full disk image. Also, in law enforcement, you're going to want to preserve exactly the way it is for perpetuity.
Yeah, the criminal thing, a little higher chain of custody issue.
Exactly.
So endpoints nowadays are defined as bring your own device, I suppose, is one endpoint, right? That's a big problem. I'm worried about my refrigerator killing me in my sleep because I didn't order enough eggs. and because I'm on the internet, and somebody's going to hack into that. What kind of endpoints in a typical corporation are problematic that I might not be thinking about?
Well, I mean, typically the bulk of the attacks are on the type of endpoints that have valuable data, which ends up being Windows, Linux mostly. But these days, with it is kind of interesting that we are in the middle of what we're calling a cyber war, right? And there are people that get up every morning and they are battling potentially cyber espionage, professional cyber espionage people from nation states. And right in the middle of the cyber battle, we decided we're going to bring our own devices to work, which
it's the weirdest thing. Makes
I know.
No sense.
Like
it's strictly financial driver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about what users are doing with their phone or their tablets on the internet, with who knows what safety precautions, and then they walk right past your perimeter, and they're on your network, able to access your crown jewels of sensitive data. That's kind of a problem. It's a very interesting choice. Obviously, to your point, it's a cost-saving measure, but so besides endpoints, mobile devices are a big thing. If you really want to be able to see what's going on, if you have an ongoing breach, you need that visibility. So that's why one of the big announcements we did in Enfuse was Encase Mobile Investigator.
I saw that. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
And somebody told me that 80% of the people in the world now have a phone. I thought it was 50%. They think it's 80%, and that's a more powerful computer than my first Televideo 8086 processor, right, with two floppy drives. So the data's going to be there. Can you do forensics on the mobile with your mobile feature? Can you do it while I'm sitting here on Facebook or playing the Candy Lane, and I not know you're doing the forensics on it? Or you got to have the phone there with you?
So no, unfortunately, you have to have physical access to the phone.
Right.
The devices are still very closed devices. Their focus, their security is focused on consumers, making sure the consumers don't harm themselves by downloading crazy stuff and installing crazy stuff. But in the enterprise, we'd really rather see them open the devices up. So all the advanced detection approaches that are being brought to bear on Windows could be brought to bear on the mobile devices, which they're not right now.
A phone is almost more secure than your desktop, right?
Well, it depends what you're talking about. Are you talking about catching like commodity malware or scattershot attacks that consumers typically run into at home, or you're talking about a nation state hacker is going after you with a targeted attack?
Right.
In the latter case, if they do have malware on your phone, like some of the stuff from Vault 7, your organization's never going to know because you can't see inside of it.
Oh, okay.
So there's kind of a difference between enterprise security, where the attacks are very targeted by a professional who dedicates a lot of time to your organization, and the consumer side, where you're more worried about the user getting into trouble, so you want to lock things down. And the mobile phones are great at consumer security, absolutely, but they don't provide the same visibility that we're kind of used to, or most SOCs are used to in the enterprise. And so this is a first step for us to lead the way to getting visibility into mobile devices.
Give me a 360 on everything that Guidance does. Encase is the first offering, so to speak, and then you've graduated into these other areas. It's really giving you a complete coverage of that threat environment.
Yep.
Whereas, I can go to Black Hat and I can see 20 vendors, and each one has a separate solution. You guys seem to have an all-in-one turnkey solution for all. Am I correct?
Well, the way we think of it is we have a forensic security solution that gives us the full visibility into your network. And there's two different ways to look at defending your enterprise. One of them is what we all know well, the threat-centric way, to look for threats and malware.
Right.
But the other way is the data-centric, which is where is your sensitive data that you're defending? I mean, you have 10,000 endpoints. How many of those endpoints actually have sensitive data? Which are the ones that you need to prioritize your defense around, that you should... which ones have your intellectual property on it, and that they shouldn't have it on it. And so by reducing your attack footprint, you can use, by using our first product, Risk Manager, which focuses on this data-centric side, you can basically find your sensitive data, remediate it where it's not supposed to be, and map it out so you can defend it. And then the incident response folks in the SOC that use our endpoint security product, they're able to respond to security alerts and make sure that you remediate any malware, any attacks on your network, and cut them off before they get to the sensitive data.
Right.
So that's working from the threat-centric side. And then you have Encase Investigator, which is the same deep forensic power that law enforcement use, but it's for the enterprise, so it scales out across many machines.
Right.
And then that's where the deeper tier 3 incident response that might spend like a week investigating a breach and maybe even preserve it in case it needs to go to court or has to be turned over to law enforcement.
So tell me how easy it is to use this stuff. Here's what I'm asking. You talked about a SOC, Security Operations Center,
Yep.
a police department, some cops.
Mm-hmm.
We're not exactly the group of people that's right up on the top of the latest technology,
Yeah.
right? My friend Paul, bless his soul, I'm going to see you in a couple of days, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul still does not use Quicken to balance his checkbook. He gets the statement with a piece of paper and a pencil, and he does it, and I go, Paul, really? What's going on there? Is it to the point where somebody in a SOC who might be a lower paid guard that's monitoring things and pushing buttons, can they get into and understand this stuff easily, use it easily? Is it requiring a course or training or something, or what?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've gone to our booth yet and seen the NK's Endpoint Security version 6, but it's by far our easiest to use product that we've ever produced.
Excellent.
It has a really nice looking UI with simple workflows. It provides answers where it says, here's where the malware is, here's where attacks are. And that product is made for junior tier 1 analysts that haven't necessarily gone through training and dedicated themselves to learning the application of forensics and security. And so that product is very easy to use. And then on the data-centric side, Risk Manager, that's also a product that's very simple to use. It's made so that people in information governance can really locate all the sensitive data, can go through and review it and make sure that the people that actually know what intellectual property looks like. So yes, this is actually a document we don't want to get out,
right? And
tag it and do all those things. And that's a really also elegant, simple to use product. The forensics is more of an approach and a set of techniques and kind of a bit of knowledge you need to know about what type of residue is left behind,
and how to do an
different
investigation,
artifacts.
kind of a little bit,
yeah, as well as all the legal issues with chain of custody and all
Right.
these things. So that's definitely for people that are a little more trained. But the other two products I would say are more for your basic users, either in the SOC or in information
Right.
governance.
Now, at the top of the interview, you mentioned an award. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So one of the things is that that we've been thinking about for a while is security researchers. You hear about all the time. They'll uncover vulnerabilities, and there are vendors that try to buy the vulnerabilities and offer bounties for them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in the summer, for instance, with the big shows like Black Hat and DEF CON, you'll hear all these salacious news stories about someone hacked a plane or something like that.
Right.
And security or forensic researchers who are reverse engineering forensic evidence left behind, like residue of all the files that you've been clicking. A lot of people don't know this, but in Windows, pretty much everything you click on your desktop and My Computer, My Documents is recorded with timestamps and who you are, and you're just leaving incredible amounts of forensic residue behind. And there are these researchers that originally reverse engineered all these artifacts and published them, and the forensic community shares it. And that, for whatever reason, even though it's a very powerful thing that has profound effects on privacy, it doesn't make it out into the light of day in the mainstream. So if you talk to the typical mainstream person in IT or cybersecurity, they don't really know the full, the full catalog of forensic artifacts and all the evidence that everyone's constantly leaving behind.
Right.
And some of this stuff is really valuable for investigating a security breach. And so, and these forensic reverse engineers are, very, very, very smart, motivated people that are constantly researching and publishing their findings. And so, what we want to do is offer a program. It's not a bounty because we don't think we should ever own their research. We should never own the artifacts. But what we wanted to do is provide like an awards program where they are awarded money, where it provides a alternate income stream, just like the bounty, the vulnerability bounty
Right.
people do, the traditional security researchers. And we wanted to use things like Enfuse as a platform so that they can be promoted for their contribution.
Oh,
and
that's
if they're part of like a consulting company,
Yeah.
A lot of times those guys are the security researchers that find new malware or vulnerabilities for PR purposes. But for these forensic researchers, this is a place to build their personal brand, to get recognition for
Yeah.
what they do in their career, or for their consulting company
That's
to build
a
its
great
brand.
idea. It almost
Yeah.
sounds like reverse open code. it's not open code, but you're trying to make it available to everybody to research, to use, to apply it and stuff like that. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and they get to do what they always did before. They get to release it freely. We just ask that when they submit it to our the awards program, just let's keep it a secret until we announce the award. Then you can shout from the mountaintops, and hopefully you win and you get. We have I think it's 20 prizes that range from $500 to $5,000, and we're going to, of course, promote the people that are doing great things in forensics.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Now, what keeps you up at night? What are you worried about?
Me, not a whole lot, to be honest.
Well, that's good. That's a good way to be.
Well, okay. I'm going to take a contrarian. I'm going to take a contrarian viewpoint.
The next big threat you're worried about.
Listen to my contrarian viewpoint.
All right.
So, one of the great things about guidance software is I got to work with a bunch of police officers that taught me some very interesting thing about police work that I didn't know. And one of them is that your front door does not keep people out.
Nope.
Not even
close.
Not even close. I had a friend who was a police officer, and he said to spice up a meeting, he was going to teach a seminar on kicking down doors. And when he basically explained to us how easy it was to kick down a door, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? It takes one kick?
It's hard to get through a window. The door's 1 second.
Yeah. I asked him, he said he had seen 10,000 doors kicked down in raids. I said, what percentage of them took 2 kicks? And he's like, I only remember 3 doors that took 2 kicks.
Right.
So my point is you have a security system, you have a door, they make you feel, you lock it at night, you go through the ritual, it makes you feel safe. But really, a smart person could break in your house and do something bad to you any night. We're secure because people aren't always trying to kill us or do bad things to us.
We're secure because 99% of the people behave.
Exactly.
That's why you're safe,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, they're obviously you need to have good security. You need to follow up on your security events. You need to have detection. But I'm not one of the doomsayers that's worried about assassination or crashing my car. Personally, there may be some people that might happen to, but I think there's a positive spin to take on it. Let's just do good security. Let's have defense in depth. Let's have a well-established incident response programs.
That is a great response. Now, Mr. Lewis, you remember every show I give the barometer, my feeling. I talk to people and I say either A, you know what, I don't feel so good about things before you started talking, or I say B, I don't feel so good about things before you started talking. Either way, I've never heard anybody give an assessment about what the next big thing is in a positive way.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. So I feel safer now, not less safe, about what you told me.
Yeah.
So that's
there
great.
You go.
And most things I go, oh my God, I didn't think about my refrigerator coming alive and on the internet, and what's the problem? So this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm forgetting to talk about?
I think that's a pretty good set of coverage.
All right, good. Yeah, we covered a lot of area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Paul.
Thanks for having me on.
Guidance. Thanks for coming on the show. So it's Guidance Software is a parent corporation.
That's right.
In case is your product, one of them.
It's a product brand, yeah.
Yeah, one of them. And out in Pasadena, California.
Based in Pasadena, California. Yep.
Great company. Thanks for coming on
so much.
Security Guy TV.
Bye-bye.
Bye.